I deal with the energy piece of it because I see so many women physicians being underpowered, I have been that way too. And it's just a skill. It's a skill set that you can develop. You are not born to be in real estate. You are not born to be in business. But if you are doing medicine, I guarantee you can do real estate and you can do business and you can do investments. I'm always bullish on a physician brain. There is nothing more powerful than a physician brain.
Welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast, the show where we teach you how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want.
Doctor!
Now, here's your host, Dr. Alex Schloe.
All right, Dr. Zhanna Albany, welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast. So glad to have you as a guest on the podcast today. And for folks who are listening, Dr. Albany is an internal medicine hospitalist. She's a physician mom, a board-certified physician in internal medicine, and a certified life coach. She has helped numerous women physicians master their energy and live sassy through her Sassy MD Factor coaching program. Excited to talk about that. She's also passionate about financial freedom, and her message is clear. Every physician should be in real estate. So we're going to talk about why and how it ties into creating the life that you want. Dr. Albany, so excited to have you on the podcast today. How are things going in Indiana?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Me too, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead. If you don't mind, can you share a bit about your background and your journey into medicine?
Absolutely. I joined real estate coaching program after I went through divorce. In the middle of COVID, I needed to sell my big house and pivot into buying a house. Selling was not a problem because it was a buyer market. The interest rates were below 3 then. So selling was easy. Buying was impossible. Like my real estate agent, we became friends. We bonded over that experience with her because she pulled all her contacts and everything. In the beginning, I thought that I wanted, open concept, bright light, this, that. At the end, I realized I just need a roof. I need a roof. That's how I scaled down. And buying a house was challenging, to say the least. That experience, I kind of created scarcity in me. And I realized that I love houses, I love real estate, and I definitely never ever want to be in this position. So that brought me into the real estate coaching group, where I learned the numbers, I learned the basics of it, and I started my journey that way.
That's awesome. What time period was that, if you don't mind? When did you first start your real estate journey?
That was 2021.
2021. Okay, awesome. Yeah, a lot of things going on at that time frame, that's for sure. And sorry to hear about the divorce and the difficulties with that, but I'm glad nonetheless that your journey was started there in 2021. Before we talk a bit more about real estate, let's talk about your journey in medicine. So do you mind sharing a little bit about your time and your journey into medicine and what that looked like for you as a physician?
Yes, absolutely. I graduated from Ukraine Medical School, and I was visiting student back in good 2 decades ago in the States when I came across with private physician in American space. And that ignited the fire in me, because I have not experienced that level of presence, that level of confidence, that level of knowledge before. And it started me on a journey back then. I realized that it's like once you see it and experience it, you cannot forget it. Like it was a simple UTI or something. I don't remember bronchitis, whoever. I don't remember the circumstances. I just remember energetically how I felt. And that was the beginning of my journey. So I went through the residency and I trained in New York, in Manhattan, in busy New York hospitals. One of them was Roosevelt Hospital. It used to be Columbia affiliated program. And we were called United Nations because we had like every single nation in the globe was represented. We had languages of anybody. You can find who speaks that language if you need to. And it was, it was fantastic time. Like one of them was like ghetto area where you have socially disadvantaged people with all the territory that comes with it. And then you have Portion Hospital in the middle of Manhattan, where you can just put your heels right after changing from scrubs and walk to the Lincoln Center for the concert. So yeah, it was a good time. And I came to Indiana. I finished my training here and I stayed in Indiana and I loved it ever since. Like at this point, I tell people I'm Hoosier, disregard my accent because I lived here more than 15 years. I completely feel like I belong.
That's amazing. Did you do your medical training initially, your medical school in Ukraine?
Yes.
What was that
I
like
did.
for you?
You know, our school is a little bit different. Like we are 6-year program. And its curriculum is different. We study anatomy for a year with all the dissections and, labs and all of that. So it's a little bit different. But listen, I want to tell all the foreign trained doctors who are maybe listening to this podcast, because as a life coach, what I realized, I was using that against me for a long time. And you don't have to do that. It doesn't matter. Like once you are done with your training, whatever that path was for you, and you started your clinical career where you are attending, you are responsible for people's lives. That's it. You are done. You can hang your IMG, whatever that title is. It doesn't matter. I want to share that message because it was my story. I thought that connection to people, I speak with the accent, I graduated from the school that people cannot pronounce in this country. Nonetheless, I love my alma mater. They gave me what counted. I know how to treat people and I know how to get them better. That is all you need. You can totally lose all of that drama, forget all of it, and get moving because the only thing that matters that you can get people better.
I love that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm sure we do have some IMGs here that listen to the podcast, and I feel the same way. And you're 100% right. Like you were trained, and sure, maybe you trained outside of the United States, but I'm sure there are plenty of things that you learned in medical school in Ukraine that have made you a better doctor here in Indiana. And I'm sure that your physical exam skills and all those sorts of things may have been honed a little bit more than some of the American medical schools. And there's just a lot of overlap. And I think that gives such a unique perspective to practice with folks who have different areas that they've trained in and different experience, because we can all collaborate and work together to take better care of patients. And that's what matters most.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Well, talk to me if you don't mind sharing. I love just sharing the journey and the story. What was it like going from Ukraine to Manhattan? Was that your first stop in America in terms of training?
Yes, I applied everywhere for residency, and I went through 15 interviews. I traveled and slept on the roads in the hotels, preparing for my interviews, and I landed in Manhattan. It was my top ranked program, and they ranked me. So that's how it happened.
That's amazing. Was it a bit of a culture shock going from home in Ukraine to Manhattan?
Well, no, I need to say I did my PhD in Sweden and I taught in medical school there. So I was not shocked. Like I was not new to teaching. I loved it. I loved that aspect of it. And it was different. However, in New York, you are new for literally 48 hours and then you are local. So it was not difficult. I need to say, the spirit was so welcoming, and the program was by design. It was to make everybody float, So I didn't feel you are stressed because you're intern and you have hours and calls and responsibilities. But the people factor was amazing.
That's great. Yeah, the people are everything. The relationships are everything, whether that's medicine, whether that's real estate, whether that's business, real estate relationships is just incredibly important. Speaking of real estate, at what point did you realize that maybe medicine alone wasn't going to give you the freedom or the lifestyle that you wanted?
You're right. I joined a real estate program looking for freedom, looking for financial freedom. And I have to say that since then, I have pivoted and I have expanded my definition of it, because I think freedom consists of two parts. Financial basis is definitely important, but it's not everything. I also realized, and I learned it through real estate, that there is energy part to it. That's why I work on energy abundance, because you can have all the money in the world and still feel trapped, still feel chained, like you are saying, to either your career or situation or whatever that is. Money does not give you freedom by itself. But if you have money and if you have energy skills, then that is the happy medium that I promote. In my journey, I did real estate, and I think that was the only window that possibly could have happened for me on coaching, because I was totally resistant to it, to be honest. Like, I did it only because I trusted the physicians that did it successfully. So I knew that I will be fine, And however, I had a lot of resistance, like even to word coaching in the beginning. I thought it was pseudoscience. It's not really, I'm in PhD. Like, why would I be interested in coaching? And since then, I have done a lot of, I realized that all of those were just myths in my head. Like, had it not been a physician coaching container, I don't think if I would have sustained myself, because my brain wanted to be confused immediately. I didn't know which market to choose. I looked everywhere. I was toying with the Florida idea for the vacation home. I was toying, like, Smoky Mountain were hot at that point, right? So, but they had community. They had the mindset piece to it. And eventually I woke up one day and I'm like, listen, I live in one of the best market in the country. Why would I go anywhere? I am in Indianapolis, Like, that makes no sense. I can buy in my backyard and not have the stress of managing long distance, not knowing even what I'm doing in the beginning, right? So coaching actually laid the ground for the real estate to catch up with me, so to speak, or me catch up with it.
That's great. Yeah, coaching can be so important. Being in the right rooms with the right people, having that community, building those relationships, all of that helps you to expedite the time it takes for you to take action. And then you're going to be taking action in a safer way because you have that community around you, and you're going to most likely move way faster than you could by yourself. When did you start coaching, and then when did you start purchasing real estate? What time period was that for you?
I started purchasing, it took me a while, I think 6 months. In the beginning, I didn't know where I was buying. Then I was confused. What am I buying? I was connected with the investor real estate agent locally. God bless her, because I was bringing my kids with me. I'm a single parent. We went everywhere. I looked at multifamily. I looked at duplexes. And she just patiently went through all of that with me. And then finally, I realized that I didn't feel pulled to any of those. And I chosen to do Airbnb and buy single family home. And I think that's the easiest entry, to be honest, for many of us. Like, I was not prepared for any big projects, but I have had houses before. I know how I can handle the house. So that's basically what I did.
That's great. Yeah. And it's helpful to kind of break things up into chunks. And, I talk a lot about shiny object syndrome, and, a way you can think about that for folks who are wondering what that is. It's basically there's so many different asset classes in real estate. And you can picture it like you're going to an ice cream shop, and each one of those ice cream flavors is a different asset class, whether that's multifamily, whether that's short-term rentals, whether that's assisted living, self-storage, et cetera. It is totally okay to take a sample and figure out like, hey, do I like this asset class? Do I like this ice cream, if you will? The problem is once you figure out what you really like and what you're really good at, are you still eating the samples, or are you sitting down and having the full sundae? And that's where it can be tricky. And that's where shiny object syndrome can be a bit difficult, is like right now where we love assisted living and we have a lot of assisted living investments and opportunity. It'd be silly for me to be like, I'm going to pivot to self-storage. And most of the time, those folks that pivot when they're doing something that they're really doing well at, it's because they get bored. And so that's something to keep in mind as well, is like, hey, when you start to feel bored, maybe it's time to like really dive in a little bit further and figure out, hey, how can I continue to grow in this asset class?
Absolutely. And I want to say that in real estate is definitely a vehicle that gets you tested the water. And it's very hard to lose money in real estate, to be honest. Like, our minds will create all sort of drama around it. But in reality, if you do proper steps and you are being guided on your way, it is pretty safe. The worst case can happen, I will need to sell the house. That's, and the best case it can happen, I consider myself a very small fish in the sea of real estate. And I want to tell people who are considering it is still valid. It is still a valid strategy. Like, I never wanted to be, mogul in this space. I just didn't have that vision for me. Like, all I wanted to plant this seed to give me a little bit of exposure. I used renovation on my properties as a therapy, to be honest. Like, I was hurting. And for me, going to Floor and Decor and staying there for 3 days did more than any meditation sessions that I did. I never got any mileage with meditation, but doing the renovation and seeing before and after transformation was totally therapeutic, worth any money.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. What did that home look like for you in terms of, cost and cash flow, and able to share any numbers on that first investment
absolutely.
property?
Yeah. So I bought a couple of single family homes, and I was buying in a good neighborhoods. So neighborhoods in my backyard. Like, I am 2 out 3 of my properties are 15 minutes drive from me. And the entry price in Indiana, which people will love, is around 300,000. That's why we have folks investing from California, from East Coast, because it's affordable, And then I invested in renovation, but short-term rental loophole. And of course, you need to do it properly. You need to talk to your CPA and know all the in and out. That allows for cost depreciation. So that gave me a room for some renovation, furnishing, and all of that, because the tax refund comes back the next year. And 2 of the houses are still Airbnb. And the condo I moved out that I bought initially, and I now converted it to long-term because it wasn't making sense number-wise. And I am very happy with it because on the condo, I think it's one of my best investment actually, because my money down was next to nothing. I was buying it with very minimal down payment from the builder, with the interest rate around 3. It's a new build, so no renovations, no investment. I painted it. That's it. And now that I rented long-term, it doesn't take any time or effort, to be honest, because I get maybe 2 phone calls, if at all, in several months. That's it. The cash flow around 300 a month. I'm fine with that, because I am building equity on it. And people who stay in my house is paying my mortgage. I'm very grateful for it. And eventually, my kids will benefit. And I am hoping not to sell and keep it long term. So in 20-some years, when the mortgage is done, then the cash flow obviously goes up. On Airbnb, it's harder to estimate because it's months dependent. And I can tell you the big picture is that I hired management to do it, and I'm probably breaking out even. And I'm fine with that because it gives me a lot of extra opportunities. Like I'm literally now in my Airbnb, doing podcasts. I use it for coaching, I use it for meetings, I use it for all the other sort of things. And I don't need to rent a YouTube studio or something to do that. So for me, it was a beneficial step. Money-wise, I am okay with breaking even because I have my salary. Eventually it will appreciate, I pivot. If it doesn't sustain itself, then I will need to look maybe into assisted living that I learned from you. You can always pivot. You can always go long term. You can always do something with it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a million ways to make $1 million. And I think something that's really important from what you said is that you figured out like, hey, I don't need to be a real estate mogul. I don't need to have hundreds and hundreds of doors. That's not for me. And I think that a lot of times in the culture that we live in with Instagram and with everything else, we see those moguls, we see those people, and we think, well, I either have to not do real estate at all, or I have to be the next like Grant Cardone or Brandon Turner. And that's not the case. Like you can start with just 1 or 2 doors. They had to start somewhere. And a lot of times these quote unquote overnight successes that we see took a decade or more to get to where they are. And we just see and have that appearance that it was quote unquote overnight. And so for folks who are listening to this, I think it's really important to think through like, hey, what is your goals? What do you want to achieve? And then just get started. And maybe that's 5 doors. Maybe that's 1 short-term rental that you can take your family to on vacation and break even. And, you just have to figure out what do you want that to look like for you? And that's really, really important. I know you do some coaching. Zhanna, what are some things that you help folks when they're in that process, when they think about like, hey, I want to get started in real estate, but I'm scared. I don't know where to get started. What's kind of next steps that you coach them on?
Alex, yes, I do help with the mindset because I think that's crucial. You may be stuck forever considering, toying with the ideas, but not taking the step. And usually it takes some other human to get you over that hump who already done it. So that's the benefit of all coaching. You have somebody who already done it. Like literally in Indiana, I have everything. I have teams in place. My contractor is fantastic. My CPA is trusted. Anybody who I bring in and recommend, I guarantee that it's not. My story with contractor was actually different from many people. When I was in a real estate group, I know that usually it's revolving door situation. Like they go somehow eventually bad on you. And that has not been my case at all. Like my contractor and his team, my personal friends now. Like we have been forever since I started. For the last 4 years, we call each other on holidays. We know spouses' names and the kids and pets because and for me, it's extra layer of support. Like if I need any help, I know they're there for me. So you can do it your way. You can be completely different, And the reason I pivoted kind of like out of real estate, I think because I just see my mission a bit different. I deal with the energy piece of it because I see so many women physicians being underpowered, I have been that way too. And it's just a skill. It's a skill set that you can develop. You are not born to be in real estate. You are not born to be in business. But if you are doing medicine, I guarantee you can do real estate and you can do business and you can do investments. I'm always bullish on a physician brain. There is nothing more powerful than a physician brain.
I love that. I'm always bullish on a physician brain. That is an amazing quote and so true. I tell people that all the time. Like if you can go to med school, if you can go to residency and fellowship and become an attending physician, real estate's easy. It's just something new for you to learn. And that's it. And we know how to learn. We know how to think critically. We know how to make critical decisions. I mean, we are wired really for real estate and for business. It's just a new frame of mind and a new way of thinking about it that can be the hard part for folks. Yeah, I really love that. I'm always bullish on the physician brain. That's great. I'm going to steal that from you, and I'll make sure to give you credit. I really like that. Well, Yeah, Dr. Albany, you talk a lot about energy mastery, and you've mentioned a couple times energy. And talk to me a little bit more about that. What does energy mastery look like to you?
Alex, thank you. And Zhanna, please. So listen, let me give you a story on what I teach very briefly. I was driving with kids at the end of summer. I took them to Michigan Lake. It was unplanned trip for the weekend just to dip their toes in the water, run on the sands. I pulled at the last second through. I happened to have a weekend free. Everybody comes, like whole family, my parents, sister, kids, everybody comes. On the way back from the trip, I hear a fight on the third row of the car. Okay, my twins started whatever started between them. It's escalated, and one of them crying out, and he's like, "Mom, it's not fair. It's not fair. He took toy, whatever." And in that moment, I remember going to my immediate, reaction is, you want to know what's not fair? You want me to tell you what's not fair? I have not slept for 2 days. I pulled it in the last second. I have been driving. I have been sleeping in the hotels for us to have fun and bonding experience. You want to tell me what's not fair? That was my reaction to it. Then I take a deep breath and I go to response, right? And in a stage of response, you have access to your frontal lobe, but you are in a cognitive part of it. You are like brainstorming, like, what is not fair? Like, is it a toy situation? Is it a water bottle situation? Like, what is not fair? So what I teach people, what I did in that moment, I dropped one layer down and I went to energy. And the energy is completely different place and state. I was driving on a highway at like 70 miles an hour, and I dropped into my heart. And I had a flashes through my mind going through, like, my twins, one of them had a brain surgery in the 3 months old. My oldest kid, I was a new mom. I didn't teach him properly how to sleep because I didn't know better. I was running to every whim, thinking that I am a good mom instead of letting him figure it out. So when the twins were born, he was a priority for sleep. Then my kid from NICU, ICU, all the stages also was priority. And here my other twin was basically left to himself, and he needed to figure it out. He turned out to be the best sleeper because he did figure it out. But he internalized that not fair situation. He couldn't talk. He couldn't tell me. But he remembered that it's not fair, that the other two have more attention and I have least attention. And he developed a wall that says it is not fair. And as a mom, I completely agree. I connected with that. I'm like, yeah, it's not fair. 100% it's not fair. So I didn't go into anything. I just slightly turned my head and I said, Pierre, I love you. I love you so much. That was an energy connection. And it settled for the next 2 hours of the ride. I did not hear a peep out of them. So that's a difference. That's a difference on the energy connection versus cognitive versus we all know how to do response and not react as a physicians. That's granted. That's how we got here. But I want to share that there is another layer underneath, and that is so much better, easier, and faster to connect. All of this flushed out in a matter of less than a minute. And it was done. The whole episode was done.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I needed you here at the Schloe house today, so I could. But yeah, no, that's fantastic, and I think it is easy to be reactive, and then I'm guilty as a father, and I'm always learning new things. I'm guilty of being reactive, and then it just makes the situation worse, and then I dwell on it for the rest of the day of how bad I felt because I was reactive and got angry at my son for something that was really silly or whatever that may be. And so, to all the parents out here, thanks for doing what you're doing and showing up for your kids. And thank you, Zhanna, for what you've done, and I have to give my heart to you raising twins because I'm an identical twin and I don't know how my parents did it. And
Oh my
so,
goodness.
yeah. So we have that twin connection there, and it is
Definitely.
difficult for sure, which is awesome. What has it been like for you as you've balanced, being a mom, being a hospitalist, being a coach? Any tips or tricks that you've figured out as you've kind of balanced all these different hats that you wear?
I just learned to fail, honestly. Like I take it as a part of where I know that if I fail 500 times, I will get up 501. That's all that takes from me. And yes, we all have that initial response. Like if I reacted, if I didn't do anything, then we beat ourselves down. And it only takes your battery from 20% to 10. And then you are really struggling. So that's why I think energy piece and energy mastery is not the place. It's a skill set, It's a skill set with the foundation. So that's what I discovered, weaving together the clinical practice, the coaching that I am doing is based, like I discovered it through real estate and business. And then I started using it in my clinical practice because it's the same skill set. But I think for physicians, it's super easy. We practice it 15, 20 times a day. It's super easy to actually lay the foundation. I can get women better in like 3 months. I am shy about promoting my business. I so much appreciate you reaching out and me having this opportunity to tell, because I realized I am under-speaking. Like some people would be like on top of the mountain shouting, we have these results, I have a client who was going through divorce. She reached out because she knew I had one. And now they are planning their tropical vacation, like I can't promise that, but I promised her, I said, I will get you to a better place. I guarantee that. And then there is a side effects of being in a mentally, energetically better place, She was able to repair and lay different foundation for relationship. And I'm so enlightened doing this work because it's life-changing. For me, that is more important than a couple extra 2 houses that I do. I would rather do that. I think once you have the channel and access to it, you have to propagate, you have to speak up. And I know that you are doing the same thing. Like you discovered something that is so valuable for so many physicians. And by the way, I love the name of your podcast and the length, because if you are around 30 minutes, I can do it. And it is physicians and properties and not real estate. Like I don't consider myself in real estate. Like I have just a couple properties and it worked for me and it can work for other physicians.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the kind words. And yeah, I feel the same. I feel the exact same way. It's like, there are so many physicians who are out there who are burnt out, who are hurting, who are broken, who are just wondering like, how are they going to make it to the next shift? And how are they going to maintain the relationship with their partner or with their kids and what that's going to look like? And there are a lot of different ways to do that. And real estate is an opportunity to help build some of that freedom and build some of that margin into life. And coaching is another example of that as well. And it's an awesome opportunity and a privilege to get to speak to what we do and get to talk to physicians and get to help folks that are going through the valleys on their way back up to the mountaintop. And so I think that is great. And I love what you do. And I'm glad that you're here and willing and able to speak to what you do so we can get more folks the help and the assistance and the relationships and the insights that they need. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we wrap things up, I wanted to ask 2 questions. One, do you see a link between being a physician life coach, being a real estate investor, both requiring vision, strategy, and taking back control? What's kind of the link that you've seen between the two? Or even if we want to throw another angle to that as well, what's the link that you see between being a physician, a life coach, and a real estate investor?
Thank you. That is a fantastic question, because I almost forgot. I want to tell people, like I have been clinical my whole life. I pivoted here and there, like I did PhD and stuff, but I always came back to being clinical bedside because I love it. Like nothing else does it for me as much, Like when all the puzzles come together, it's like I have that sense and I know that I'm doing my life purpose. But if you do more than one things in life, you start seeing trends. It becomes so easy because it's the same thing everywhere. If you're able to expand your capacity into different area, being real estate or being business or being coaching or being anything that speaks to you, photography, yoga, it doesn't matter what it is, but you will start seeing more of the trends. And I think it's very beneficial. It's probably the best factor to have that vision of the opportunity, because it really is connects all of it. Like if you have this skill of signal versus noise in clinical life, you have the same skill in real estate. Like I'm internal medicine hospitalist. I see old people who have UTIs and then fall and then they had breaking hip and we need to place them. What do I see? I see that we are struggling. Like either there is no place to place them or their house is not accommodated for So what I did in real estate, I used that knowledge. I bought ranches exclusively. Like it needs to be, ground level, bathroom and 1 bedroom, because otherwise it's a problem later in life. I see a lot of sarcopenia. Nearly all my people have sarcopenia. I'm passionate about helping women to not have that. It doesn't have to be, it's not aging. It's not part of aging. It's a separate entity and you don't have to have it. So you can use your clinical acumen and clinical knowledge in whatever territory, business, or endeavors that you are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just another example of the physician brain, and how we can kind of, cross-correlate all these different things to do more good in the world. And that is awesome. Well, for a physician who's listening right now, who's never invested, they're thinking, hey, I want to get started potentially investing in real estate. What's the very first step that you would recommend they take?
I definitely recommend listening to podcasts and getting yourself familiar with the terminology and thinking for yourself, do you feel open to it? Is that the right energy for you? And if you have a calling in you that you can do it, then my advice would be to do it with the physicians, real estate people who have done it for themselves. They will guide you fastest. You will not fall through the cracks because it's a proven path. Somebody who have done the road, it's so much easier to show. I use both coaching and mentoring because it's some of it, you need to figure it out for yourself on the emotional and energetic level. But some of the things, I can just tell you what it is, fast and furious, So I recommend joining either your program, your mastermind, somebody who speaks to you. Find the person who talks to your soul. That's the most important thing. You will never, ever lose with that people. That's your trouble.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, I completely agree. Masterminds and coaching have completely changed my life and, are so beneficial for many different reasons. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that. Well, where's the best place for people to connect with you, whether that's for coaching, whether that's for the Sassy MD Factor program, and please tell us more about that, or just to connect and talk about real estate?
Thank you. I am on LinkedIn under my name, Zhanna Albany. I am on Instagram, Coach with Dr. Albany. You can find me on, and there is a link, I'm working on my website. So it's sassymd.com.s.me. So that's my scheduling page. And I do 20 minutes consultation and I am happy to hear your story. There is no strings attached. We do the right thing. That I want to help people and I want to get the word out.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. We'll be sure to include those links in the show notes. And man, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for what you do for physicians and for women physicians. Just absolutely love it. So thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Awesome. Well, with that, it's been Dr. Albany and Dr. Schloe with another episode of the Physicians and Properties podcast. Signing off. Hey, real quick, if you're still listening to this, I'm assuming you got value from it. So I need your help specifically. My 2-year vision with this podcast is to help 100,000 physicians learn how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want. There are 2 main ways that a podcast grows. One is through ratings and reviews, and the other is word of mouth. If you can please leave me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as send this to 1 to 2 friends that you think would get value from it, we can reach the physicians that we want to reach. Thanks in advance, and talk to you on the next episode. Please note that the information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only. It should not be considered financial or medical advice. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force.